In the late months of 2021, came a post to the Japanese crowdfunding site Ready4 by a user named Yabuchi. The post was entirely in Japanese, but its translated headline read, "I want to cheer up my 7-month-old dog who's battling severe pulmonary artery stenosis, sepsis, and arthritis." And when translated into English, this post went on to describe an absolutely heartbreaking situation. "Thank you very much for visiting this page," it read. "Nice to meet you. My name is Yabuchi, the owner of Toi-Kun, and this time I would like to ask for your support. This is a boy born on New Year's Day 2021. He's a flat-coated retriever. I have no time. I would appreciate it if you could read it to the end." The post would go on to describe Yabuchi's love towards her dog named Toi-Kun, saying that the puppy became her family, that he loves people and walking, but that he couldn't do it very much because of his heart condition. Yabuchi discovered Toi-Kun's heart condition very early into owning him, and at only 2 months old, she took the poor pup to the cardiologist, where he was diagnosed with congenital pulmonary artery stenosis, which is defined as when the pulmonary valve in the heart doesn't fully open. This often causes a shortness of breath and severe chest pains. In humans with this affliction, survival after 25 years is diagnosed at 93%, and though it can be treated in both humans and dogs alike, it goes without saying that this can oftentimes be expensive, but that's getting ahead of ourselves. In honesty, it's more than possible to live a relatively normal life with it as long as the case isn't severe. But unfortunately, according to Yabuchi, this was in fact one of the more severe cases. Yabuchi would acknowledge this, and admitted that for these kind of extreme cases, there was merely a 54% chance of survival for 1 year after being diagnosed with no treatment. She attached a few pictures of what appears to be doctor's notes, x-rays and diagrams to the post, which served to show undeniable evidence that yes, this poor dog was seriously sick, and that there was a fair chance of him passing if nothing was done about it. After 2 months, Yabuchi was told that Toi-Kun's blood flow velocity was quite severely abnormal, and that seizures and fainting could occur at any time. Yabuchi would go on in her post to claim that she saw several different doctors. She described how she would travel once a week to get checked before writing more about cute things that Toi-Kun would do, such as wagging his tail and interacting with people, trying to cheer up Yabuchi when she was sad, and all around being a very good boy. Eventually though, you will be glad to hear that Toi-Kun did get his surgery, and Yabuchi wrote in her post that she was absolutely over the moon that it happened. Included in the Ready4 fundraiser were some more pictures of Toi-Kun showing him happy on the day of his surgery, as well as his surgery scar. While this should have been the beginning of a newly normal life for the retriever, only 3 days after his surgery, Yabuchi noted that she saw her dog walking with his right hind leg in the air, completely raised. So once again, the poor pup had to be taken to the vet. But when the two got there, Yabuchi was notified that her dog had apparently torn his ACL, which, while incredibly painful, at the very least is not life-threatening. She took him home and he was prescribed some painkillers, slowly beginning to use all 4 of his legs again shortly after. More trips to the vet ensued, and soon it was discovered that the torn ACL had been misdiagnosed. Toi-Kun was actually suffering from panesthesis instead. This is described on Google as painful inflammation of the outer surface or shaft of one or more long bones of the legs. It is sometimes called growing pains. The most common symptom of this being the sudden lameness in one or more of the legs, hence why Toi-Kun was walking around with 3 on the ground and 1, his right hind leg, up in the air. This caused the dog to become bedridden, so he had to be treated, and before Yabuchi knew it, she claimed that Toi-Kun was on 9 different medications. And soon after this, the bad news just kept piling on, with the dog later being diagnosed with idiopathic immune-mediated polyarthritis. His arthritis slowly started getting better, but as is a recurring theme in this story, well, this joy was short-lived, because soon, once again, Toi-Kun's heart began getting worse. His blood flow velocity after surgery was significantly higher than the value before surgery, and even 3 times higher than a more severe case. And it was at this point that it almost became too much for Yabuchi. Toi-Kun was clearly in constant pain, and at some point you've got to ask, is it worth it? Should you just let nature play its course? But according to her story, this was never an option. Yabuchi just loved her dog so much that it was never on the cards. And so she had one final ace up her sleeve, the riskiest surgery of all. As I mentioned earlier in this video, the original post made by Yabuchi was entirely in Japanese, so I've had to translate it over Google, and obviously that's going to make some mishaps. There's going to be some things that just don't go over into English, and this is one of them. Especially when we're talking about medical lingo, it can be especially hard because it's really not my forte, but I believe that Yabuchi wanted her dog to receive open heart surgery with an artificial lung. Toi-Kun had previously received a balloon catheterization, which was a cheaper, milder treatment. But clearly his case was too severe, and so this open heart surgery was truly the last option. It was apparently both riskier and more expensive than the balloon surgery, but if successful, at least in theory, it would be much more effective as a treatment. But first things first, to even get this surgery would require a lot of money. A lot of money that Yabuchi simply didn't have. So she took to crowdfunding to try and fund it. I want to save Toi-Kun, who has worked so hard up to this point. I don't want to give up because I don't have enough money. The cost of surgery, hospital bills, and treatment up to now has been high. I myself am working part-time. The reality is that it will never come. Yabuchi wrote her call to action claiming that if Toi-Kun couldn't take in the funds to receive his open heart surgery before the end of the year, everyone would be refunded. She attached further pictures of her vet bills revealing prices that she's paid for Toi-Kun. 33,000 yen, 13,000 yen, 34,000, 9,000, 14,000, 10,000, 451,000 yen. Yabuchi would have paid thousands of dollars worth for these surgeries and treatments for her dog. She added pictures of the medications that he was prescribed and stressed the point that Toi-Kun likely didn't have much time, that he could suddenly die at any point, and so she pled with people to donate fast. According to Yabuchi, the doctor said that Toi-Kun could potentially have his heart surgery within a month, so time was of the essence. She broke down the costs of what the hospital bills would incur and wrote some more about what she hopes for Toi-Kun in the future. I want you to complete your dog life. That is my only wish. I want to let you play. I want you to live a long, happy life, even if it's just one day. For me, not only my dog, but also dogs, cats, and animals are my family. Dogs are more important than humans. It's important, and important can't be expressed in words. To be able to see Toi-Kun's cheerful face and happy smile again, I just wish for that. And so concluded her post. And amazingly, people started to band together over this. Her story must have touched a few people's hearts because over the next few days, weeks and months, over 400 people donated to the cause, raising a grand total equating to roughly £11,700 or $16,000. You can see messages of support written by donators. We also have a dog. How anxious and worried you are when your precious family is seriously ill. I hope you can achieve your goals and have a safe surgery. Toi-Kun, I hope you get better soon and play a lot. But for as heartwarming as these messages were, and for as hopeful as this situation was becoming, the light at the end of the tunnel would soon be snuffed out. Because it was here that the story took a dark and shocking turn. Because as it's since been discovered, when Yabuchi wrote this post, Toi-Kun was already dead. At exactly 7:44 AM on the 14th of January 2022, a news article by a local Japanese news outlet named Yomiuri Shimbun went live. A news article that described how a 26-year-old woman of the name Kana Sudo had been arrested on suspicion of attempted fraud by trying to defraud money through crowdfunding for the treatment of her dog's illness. For the entirety of this video, I have been telling you the lie that Kana Sudo told people on her crowdfunding page. This is the true story. It seems as though the beginning of this story was true. Yabuchi, real name Kana Sudo, adopted the puppy when soon after she discovered that he had a number of health problems. All of this was true. All of the photographs of medication, all of the pictures of hospital bills, these were in fact legitimate. It genuinely appears as though she was trying to help Toi, but in the end nothing could be done and the puppy died in August. 2 months before she started her crowdfunding campaign. What was also true was that Yabuchi had a tough time making ends meet. I believe that when the report came out she was unemployed. And so, admitting to the charges made against her, she claimed that in a fit of desperation, now that her dog had died, she set up the crowdfund to try and recuperate the vast amounts of money that she had spent on all of the surgeries, medications, hospital bills and the sorts. According to her, there was nothing that could be done about Toi-Kun. She tried to get him better, but it failed. And now that he had passed, Well, Yabuchi thought that the limited money that she had was now wasted. The reason she was caught was allegedly down to an anonymous tip to the police. But fortunately for the people that were taken advantage of, they were eventually refunded. And soon after the news broke, the fundraiser was cancelled so that no others could fall for this ruse. As of a result of this, it goes without saying that Sudo would have to stand trial, pleading guilty to the charges for the reasons that we've already discussed. It wasn't done with malice intent, it was just a way to try and recuperate some money back into her pocket after spending exorbitant amounts on hospital bills for a now deceased pet. It's sad too, because if she just would have posted the fundraiser earlier, there's a good chance that she would have seen a similar amount of success. Perhaps when she wrote in her post that there was one point in which she thought that it might be best to not go through with the surgery, that's exactly what she did. And only after Toi-Kun had died, she finally realised that crowdfunding the surgery was an option. But that's just speculation. Now, no Western articles I found reported any further on the situation, so I had to look it up in Japanese. And that's when I found this article that went live at 9 minutes past 8 PM on the 14th of April 2022. And it reported that the judge, Takeshi Samo, sentenced him, which I think is just lost in translation. All of the other articles I found claim Kana to be female. But anyway, the judge sentenced Kana Sudo to 1 year and 6 months in prison, suspended for 3 years. The judge would criticise the dog owner, saying that it was a vicious crime of soliciting donations from a wide range of people using the method of crowdfunding, taking advantage of the feelings of the supporter's dog for money. But since the money was never handed over to Sudo, it was hard to justify putting her behind bars, hence the suspended sentence of 3 years, which essentially means that as long as she doesn't commit any other crimes, she will not go to prison. The saga of Toi-Kun was a heartbreaking, tragic one indeed, but also one of nuance and layers. I'm really interested to hear what you guys have to say about it down in the comments below, because although I would never ever justify using a fake sob story to scam people out of their hard-earned cash, am I crazy for having a bit of sympathy for Yabuchi? To me, it really does seem like she genuinely cared for her dog. Maybe that's just me being a bit naive, a bit optimistic, but nobody deserves what happened to her to happen. Nobody. And in retrospect, reading what she had to say, I think there were a few clues in her writing. At least when translated into English, there were multiple times throughout her post where she apologised for all of the pain that her poor puppy had endured, as if it was already dead. I think that this was her almost trying to write a message to her passed away pet. And I can understand, wrong or not, that she felt as though that now Toi had died, the money that she had spent to try and extend his life for mere weeks, a couple of months, was now all for nothing. This was definitely one of the saddest cases I've ever covered, but also, in my opinion, one of the most interesting. But that's all we have time for today, so if you enjoyed this video, please make sure to like and subscribe. Make sure to follow me on all of my socials if you haven't already, and I'll see you in the next video. Thank you for watching.